you have examples of how you've used design or data to inform the design? I know you can't go into very concrete like details, you know, everyone's working on secret projects everywhere, but you know, maybe from the past or present, any example, like how does one use data to inform design?
When I first heard this question, I was chatting with my wife, who's also a design leader, and she joked, she's like, what project don't we use the data for design? Like, it is at the heart of sort of all the things that you do, whether it's to understand the problem or to evaluate possible solutions, and then to learn what you need to make better. And there's lots of kinds of data. It doesn't only have to be like what you get out of Google Analytics or your custom tool. There's, as we said, there's user research data, there's market research data, there's customer service data, et cetera, et cetera. One of the examples that struck me when I was thinking about this was some work that someone who last summer was a design intern at Venmo, her name was Lisa, did. She took on a project which came into existence because of data. We looked at our customer service calls, and what we determined was that the number one driver, the number one reason people were calling Venmo at the time was people had a problem that they were sending money to the wrong user. And so we gave Lisa sort of the opportunity to spend a summer trying to understand the problem and what was causing it and what we could do about it. And so then we used other data to, you know, analyze the funnel and be like, okay, well, where is this mistake happening and what are the precursors of it? And what can we learn about what's going on? And that gave us a bunch of insights about, you know, how, you know, some limitations in our search experience, or the fact that people were zooming through very quickly and sending money to people that they'd never sent money to before, and that there was an opportunity to have different experiences for someone you've sent money to 20 times and someone you've never sent money to. And if you've never sent money, well, you should slow down and be confident that this is the right person, and that we could at least optionally introduce some more friction to say, hey, do you want to send this person a note, or do you want to get a code from them to make sure that this is the right person? You know, we were able to release those designs and put them out. And like about a month or so later, there was a tornado in South Carolina. Let's see, you can see that background? Yeah. And someone's house was destroyed. And, you know, people use Venmo to help each other. And so this person put their Venmo handle on their roof, including their last 4 digits of their code to make sure it was going to the right person. And so, you know, this was, I thought, a beautiful example of like how this thing that started with his customer support data turned into a thing that got out into the world that really helped address this problem in someone's life in a great way. So that was a fun example.
No, yeah, that's illuminating, actually.
And thank you, Micah, for sharing that. It is super inspiring. And yeah, as you said, right, that there is not a single decision that we make without using data, and it's almost unimaginable, right, without when I say data, right, it's not just quantitative data, but also qualitative from research insights perspective. So those are all the data input sources. One example I can give, right, was years ago, right, when I was at Grab. We want to introduce this new feature, the peak hour pricing. Meaning that, hey, because we need to make sure that during the peak hour, when there's high demand, we need to reallocate our cars, right? So that so people whoever pays more can get the benefit. But obviously, this is not a desirable thing to do for our passengers. So we want to make sure that there are two objectives, right? One is that we want to make sure this price increase is noticeable. People are aware of it, right? They don't book by mistake. And I think the second thing is that it needs to drive the awareness, but it should not be intimidating so that people stop booking. And so you want to find that fine balance, right, between your business needs and users' needs. So we want to find the right color to do this notification. And obviously, color, everybody can see color. It's highly subjective. Everybody has an opinion. So our PM said, hey, pink, go with pink, super obvious. And our designers know it's just too cheap, this color, right? Like we want something subtle. We're designers, you know, we have taste, we want something subtle. So we did lots of testing. And obviously the subtle ones that was not noticed. The pink ones got noticed, but the numbers showed that there's also a huge job in terms of conversion rate, that the people don't book, that they saw it, Therefore, they don't book because they're scared. And then we also tested orange among many, many other colors, right? So what we noticed, the interesting fact was that orange gives equal awareness, but the conversion rate was higher. So that is less intimidating of a color. And that's where we landed, right? So this is a very, very small example, but I just want to illustrate that, every single decision, you can be backed up by data and to make it more business effective.
Well, how do we quantify what the metrics are and the impact of a particular designer? I speak from a lucky position in the sense that I'm in an organization where data it's not hard to get data. I've been in many organizations where it was extremely hard to get data, but that isn't the challenge as much. There are some design decisions that are more global and are harder to figure out how they lock down. And that speaks to the earlier point of like, you need to do things more incrementally so you can see what the impacts are. But the broader point I thought of when you asked that question was, in many ways, that's not the hard problem. I think like the hard problem, like most design problems are actually strategy problems or interpersonal problems or cultural problems. That's the root of the things that are really hard. And so figuring out how you get to those to build the trust and the relationship and the expression of what the world can be. When you have that, people can rally around it. If you're only in the data, sometimes there's this back and forth, and you're all working really hard, but you're not actually getting anywhere because you're just pushing against each other. And this again is where I think design can bring a superpower. A shout out to Twisha, who's on this call and is on my team at Venmo for some of the work around the credit card, which we just put out. There are a variety of points where she helped express a vision of what we could do, and the team got excited about it. And what we discovered was the effort to get to alignment was much harder than the work to actually build the thing. Like once you know what you're doing, it happened incredibly quickly. So figuring out how to build those relationships and doing so in a way that is clear that you understand what the business is trying to achieve. That's where the metrics come in, but that you can paint a vision of what you can potentially, what the experience could be. That's where the magic can happen.
That's really nicely put. And I think, what I'm hearing as well is don't just get tangled up in the data and numbers. Like designers, you have a superpower that transcends that even, right?
Yes. But if you don't acknowledge the numbers and show how your vision connects to the numbers, then you're just floating in space and not connected to the organization.
Absolutely. I just want to ladder that, right? It really is this holistic journey we all need to go through, right? It's not one thing that is most impactful. It's many things together to break it up, to unpack it. I think the key thing as a designer to be successful, right? Leveraging data and to be successful as a designer in your job, in your day-to-day job, really is first, you need to understand what is the problem you're trying to solve. And to understand the problems, obviously you need to rely on data, right? Research and the number, metrics, etc., to have a holistic picture so that you can accurately evaluate what is the problem or what is the opportunity. And then based on that, you really need to make sure that your solution is tackling the problem. It's not a way around it, right? And not solving it. So then what you need to do is you need to validate your solution, right? Through research or whatever. And with that, after you release your product, you look at the data, you should see a tangible improvement, right? Because you validated that hypothesis during the usability study phase. But what I think is for a designer to train yourself to be able to measure your own work, you really need to first train yourself to have a habit of looking at data. I remember in my career, earlier stage of my career, every Monday, the first thing we would do is to sit as a team, look at the data dashboard to see what is working, what is not working, which part is not working, and really, really go to granular details, right? And that dashboard could be anything, could be performance data, could be uptime data, could be experiential data, could be click-through rate, and could be conversion, could be many, many, many things, time span, etc., right? So you evaluate, you slice and dice your performance in so many ways, and you need to really train yourself to be super, super sensitive to it and to be able to interpret, because sometimes you see the data, you don't know what it means, and it can be interpreted in many, many ways, right? So work with your data scientist, work with your business analyst, right? Whoever in your team had a better sense of data, and ask them how they evaluate it, right? To really learn from the experts around you. And then you can really look at your own design. Hey, this button, I've just changed the color, had a better number than yesterday. Okay, that's how you evaluate it, right? My click-through rate increased 6% because I changed it from yellow to orange, for example, right? I'm simplifying it, but that's how you do it, right? You have to make baby steps and wanting to learn.